What's that line the clubs like to say about their poker machine profits? They give to the community. They give back. How much do they really give back? Terrific story this week by Steve Kinane at the ABC Investigations Unit on poker machines. There was a guy called Greg Zusner who had a business. He worked all his life building up this business. He was just about to retire and he was going to sell his business, leave Sydney for the idyll of Tasmania. Then the bomb went off. Vicky Clerk, somebody who'd worked for him for 10 years, came to him and said, "Look, terribly sorry about this." She was in tears. "I've taken money from you." As it turned out, she'd stolen $3.7 million. Where did that money go? It went into the Pokies. It went to the Windsor RSL and the St Mary's Leagues Club. 3.7 million. Now the clubs have said it might be proceeds of crime, but we're not going to pay it back because we didn't know it was proceeds of crime. Well, how do you get somebody spending $3.7 million and not know that it might be somebody else's money? They never ask. That is the issue. Even worse than turning a blind eye to the misery of their own customers, whose lives are chained to these poker machines, they feed them drinks and free food. They run their bars at a loss, these clubs, some of them, in order to keep people sitting in front of the poker machines. Australia is the biggest gambling nation in the world per capita. Poker machines and clubs are the biggest form of gambling. But our investigation, and this is the guts of it, we exposed the clubs for this lame contention that they give money back to the community. If anyone's been to their local club recently, it's very likely that they'll be doing some sort of renovation. Down the road here, they're building aged care retirement villages, they've got child care, they've got a bowling alley down at the DYRSL where one of their top premium players, Gary Van Doonen, killed himself after a poker machine binge a few years ago. No reform since then. These are the numbers. Let's take Dooley's Catholic Club at Lidcombe, for instance. Dooley's, the club, spent $30 per member on community services in 2017, but they took $967.70 from each member in poker machine profits, or losses if you're a player. That's almost $1,000 versus $30. That is what they're giving back to the community. A tiny, weensy fraction of their poker machine profits. Another one, DYRSL. They took an average of $911 per member just from Pokies alone, and they gave back just $41 per member. 22 times more from Pokies than were given to community. The year before, 25 times more. Now the other point about this, the club with the biggest income from Pokies is the Mounties at Cabramatta. They made a loss in 2018 of $2 million on their beverage sales. They're selling the grog at a loss of about 33% per drink. Why is that? Because they're giving it to their poker machine people to keep them stuck to the screens. Just further to this hypocrisy, the Mounties at Cabramatta bought, a few years ago, the Harbord Diggers on the headland of Curl and Harbord. If they were spending their money on community, then why had they spent tens of millions of dollars buying a club in a community across the other side of Sydney? There's huge empire building going on here. So the business model is plying addicted poker machine players full of grog to take their money off them. That's it. And of course the state government then takes the money off the clubs. Hundreds of millions of dollars in poker machine income goes to the state governments. So there is no will to do anything about this. It is completely feeble. The major parties are compromised by club donations and by lobbying. There's a couple of independents that have been really good. Andrew Wilkie particularly has been very strong, but of course, when you have that much money swilling around, it's very difficult to reform anything. It will have to be reformed. I mean, how many deaths will it take? And it's useless money. During the pandemic, Stephen Mayne, the great anti-pokies activist, estimated that Australians were saving $38 million a day because these clubs were shut. $38 million a day they were saving. Of course, there's another economic drag because the agencies, well, take Dooley's for instance, the Archbishop Fisher, the Catholic Archbishop of Sydney, is the patron of Dooley's. He's the patron of the Pokies clubs, which creates this human misery. And then you've got the Catholic Caritas and the agencies which clean up the messes in people's lives made by these things. So economically, there's no argument for them apart from the fact that it gives the state some money, puts money in the state coffers. Like this video if you'd like to see the governments do something about this pandemic the poker machine pandemic. Josh, since we last spoke, you've created an extra $23 billion. That was 4 weeks ago. $23 billion in 4 weeks. New money. What about buying a little bit of merch?